That used BMW 5 Series sitting on the lot, priced at $19,000, is wearing the same price tag as a brand new Toyota Camry. Same money, completely different future. Within the first 3 years of ownership, that bargain BMW has a real chance of costing its owner an extra $8,000 to $12,000, and repairs a Camry owner will simply never see. Air suspension failures alone can run $2,500 a corner. And on some of these cars, all 4 corners fail inside the same 18-month window. So here's the question nobody asks at the moment they're signing the paperwork. Why does a car this cheap exist in the first place? Most of these cars roll off a standard 4-year, 50,000-mile factory warranty, and used listings have a strange habit of showing up right around that exact mileage mark. Whether that's deliberate timing by the leasing companies or simply how the math of depreciation and lease end dates happens to work out, the pattern is real. The car gets handed back or traded in right as the coverage runs out, right as the expensive parts are statistically due to start failing, and it lands on a used lot within weeks, looking flawless, priced to move. Because luxury and reliability were never the same promise. The badge on the hood tells you about performance and engineering ambition. It says nothing about what happens the moment that warranty clock runs out. So what's more expensive than a $2,500 suspension corner? The transmission. On several of these used German luxury models, a transmission rebuild or replacement runs anywhere from $4,500 to $7,000, and unlike the suspension, which at least gives you some warning with a rough or bouncy ride, a failing transmission on these cars can feel completely smooth right up until the moment it isn't. Here's why. Many of these transmissions are sealed units, marketed as filled for life, with no dipstick and no simple way to check the fluid the way you could on an older car. And the onboard software is constantly adapting the shift points to compensate for wear, smoothing everything out electronically so the driver never feels the gradual decline happening underneath. That's not a flaw by accident. It's a byproduct of how these systems are designed to prioritize a seamless driving feel over transparency. But it also means the smoothness you feel on a test drive isn't proof the transmission is healthy. Sometimes it's the opposite. It's the software doing its best to hide where that's already building, right up until it can't compensate anymore. So if a salesperson tells you, "She drives like a dream," that phrase should make you more curious, not less. Ask yourself, how would you actually know if something was already wrong under all that smoothness? Mechanics who specialize in these cars watch for one very specific thing most buyers never think to check: a slight hesitation, a barely noticeable flare in the shift, but only in the first 2 minutes of driving, before the engine and transmission have fully warmed up. That's the one moment the car can't fully hide what's coming. And here's the part that should genuinely bother you. Most dealership cars have already been started, warmed up, and driven around the lot before a customer ever gets behind the wheel, which means that one small window where the truth might slip through has usually already closed before your test drive even begins. Here's a number that should give you pause. A modern German luxury sedan can have more onboard computer modules than a small passenger jet, sometimes over 100 separate control units managing everything from the suspension to the seat memory to the way the headlights swivel around a curve. That's not a car anymore in the way your father's car was a car. It's a network. And a question worth sitting with is this: when you buy a 10-year-old luxury sedan, are you buying a car? Or are you buying 100 small promises that something built over a decade ago is still going to work exactly the way it did the day it left the factory? Every one of those modules is a part that can fail, and when one does, you're rarely looking at a simple fix. On these cars, a single faulty sensor buried behind the dashboard can trigger a cascade of warning lights that have nothing to do with each other, because the systems are so tightly networked that one small failure gets misread by 3 or 4 other modules at once. Owners have driven in for something as minor as a parking sensor fault, only to be told the car also thinks there's a problem with the transmission and the climate control, 3 unrelated warnings, 1 root cause, and a diagnostic bill before anyone even touches the actual part. An independent mechanic without the manufacturer's specific diagnostic software often can't read half of these codes accurately, which is why so many owners find themselves quoted one price at a local garage, only to be told, almost apologetically, "You're going to need to take this to the dealer." And dealer diagnostic time alone, before a single part is even ordered, can run $200 to $400 just to be told what's wrong. This is the part nobody explains when you're admiring how the seats adjust themselves the moment you sit down, how the car seems to anticipate your next move on the highway. Those small, magical conveniences depend on a level of complexity that, whether by design or simply by consequence. Mechanics who specialize in these engines have a grim nickname for it. Some call it the Widowmaker, because when it fails, it doesn't give you a slow warning light or a gentle nudge to book a service appointment. The part is the timing chain guide, a small plastic and metal component tucked deep inside certain six-cylinder BMW engines, and when it breaks, it can send the timing chain skipping, which in the worst cases bends valves and requires a full engine rebuild or replacement, a repair that can run anywhere from $5,000 to $8,000, sometimes more, on a car that might have been bought for $14,000 or $15,000 in the first place. Picture that for a moment. You find the car, it looks immaculate, it drives beautifully, the seller seems honest, the price feels like a genuine gift after years of admiring these cars from a distance. You take it home. For 6 months, maybe a year, everything is perfect, better than perfect, actually, because it's everything you imagined it would feel like. And then, without any dramatic buildup, the engine simply stops running correctly on an ordinary Tuesday in an ordinary parking lot, and the repair estimate that comes back is more than what you originally paid for the entire car. Here's the part that actually matters, though this isn't undetectable. A slight rattling or chattering sound in the first 2 or 3 seconds after a cold start, before the oil has fully circulated, is one of the earliest warning signs of this. So if these warning signs exist, the rattle, the flare, the pattern, and the mileage, why doesn't every seller mention them? Because in most private sales, there's no legal requirement to volunteer a mechanical issue nobody directly asked about. The seller only has to answer the question you actually ask in the exact way you ask it, and most buyers, especially when they're excited, when they finally found the car they've been dreaming about, don't ask the right questions because they don't know what the right questions are. There's also a pattern worth naming carefully. A car that looks freshly refreshed and priced to move with no way for you to know what prompted the timing. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Even a completely well-meaning private seller, someone who genuinely isn't trying to deceive you, might not know their own car has a problem brewing because we've just spent 4 modules establishing exactly how well these cars hide their symptoms. So the danger isn't only dishonest sellers. Sometimes it's honest sellers who are just as much in the dark as you are, standing next to a car that looks perfect and drives perfectly, with no way of knowing what's quietly wearing out underneath. Which means the responsibility, whether that feels fair or not, sits almost entirely on one side of the transaction, yours. Not the dealer, who's incentivized to close the sale. Not the private seller, who may not even know what they don't know. Not the shiny vehicle history report, which only tells you about accidents and title records. Not about a rattle nobody's reported to anyone yet. So the real question isn't whether you can trust the person selling you the car. It's whether you're walking in prepared enough that trust was never something you needed in the first place. And that preparation is exactly what the next few minutes are going to give you. Here's something that might surprise you after everything you've just heard. Not every used German luxury car is a trap. Some of them go 200,000 miles, 250,000 miles, running as smoothly on the day they're finally sold as the day they left the factory floor. The difference between that car and the one that leaves you with an $8,000 engine bill isn't luck. And it isn't really about the badge on the hood at all. It comes down to a small handful of things, some about the specific car, some about the specific seller, some about what happened to that car in the years before you ever laid eyes on it. And once you know what they are, they're not complicated to check. That's the part almost nobody tells you. The entire used luxury car industry, from the glossy dealership showroom to the private seller who genuinely, well, is built around the assumption that you won't ask the right questions, because most buyers never have. They fall in love with the leather and the badge and the price tag that finally feels within reach, and they skip the handful of checks that would have told them, in advance, exactly what kind of car they were about to buy. A specialist mechanic can look at one of these cars for less than an hour and tell you with real confidence whether it's one of the good ones or one of the ones quietly heading toward disaster. So here's exactly what to check in order before you ever hand over $1 for a used German luxury car. First, the cold start. Ask to see the car before it's been driven that day, ideally first thing in the morning, with the engine stone cold, not warmed up in the lot, not just moved it for you. Listen for that rattle or chatter in the first 2 or 3 seconds. If a seller resists this or insists the car has already been warmed up for you, that resistance alone tells you something. Second, ask for the full service history, not just the Carfax. A vehicle history report tells you about accidents and titles. It says almost nothing about oil changes, transmission service, or whether a suspension component was quietly replaced last year. Independent shops keep records. A seller who's maintained a car properly will usually have them, or know exactly which shop to call for them. A seller who goes vague, who says, "I think I have some paperwork somewhere," is telling you something too. Third, check the mileage against the warranty cliff we talked about earlier. A car sitting suspiciously close to 50,000 miles, especially if it's being sold by someone who's owned it less than 2 years, deserves an extra round of questions about exactly why it's being sold now. Fourth, asking specific questions by name does something powerful. It signals to an honest seller that you know what you're talking about, and it makes a dishonest one considerably less comfortable lying to your face. None of this takes more than a single afternoon. None of it costs more than a few $100s. Every single one of these 5 checks exists because a real, specific repair bill was waiting for someone who skipped it. The same $8,000 engine, the same $2,500 suspension corner, the same story over and over on cars that looked flawless right up until they weren't. You don't have to be that person. The car that made someone else's dream come true, and the car that emptied someone else's savings account can be sitting on the exact same badge. And now for the first time, you actually know how to tell them apart.